All right, thank you all for joining us for the How to Market Your Skills and Boost Your Employability workshop. Joining us today is Dr. Darren Vetter with a Career and Professional Development Specialist. They're going to discuss how to market yourself in the best way possible to get hired in this ever-evolving workforce market. I'm going to go ahead and hand it over to him to get started.
All right, cool. Good afternoon, everybody. It's great to be with you all again. Josh, I don't know. I think I can open the chat because I'll have some chat questions come up later, but if I can't, yes, I can. I should be good. Okay. I should be okay today. So I'll do my best with this. So it's great to be back with you guys. This topic is really something that can be really interesting. There's a lot of parts and pieces to it. I'll have a lot of different examples of things that are very interesting, some that are kind of fun, and then we'll do a little feedback with you all and a little class participation this time, hopefully. So marketing skills and employability. So these are two big key features that kind of lay in to working on resumes, working on LinkedIn profiles, working on Handshake. And so I'll go over all these. So how do you show it on a resume, on a Handshake profile, or on a LinkedIn profile? How do you show the skills that you have? So a thing that we encourage with everybody, it doesn't matter what your resume is we try to use some dynamic terminology to describe skills and actions, specific actions too, and quantifiable data. This comes up a lot too, where people use examples that, hey, I worked fast food, I didn't do anything. Well, it turns out you took care of 240 customers a day and managed $4,000 in sales. Yes, you did something. So including results too, one of the areas that we see a lot on resumes and a lot with students and alumni is they describe the project that they've done and they don't ever tell you the results. And so that's one area that we try to focus on a little bit too, that you have that information. And then you want to sell yourself. You want to use the dynamic action verbs to describe the activities. So here in parentheses, manage 8 employees per shift with daily sales of $4,175. These are the things that you guys are allowed to do. You can do this on a resume. A resume is not a legal document. So you, of course, don't want to lie on it. But if you don't know the exact number of certain things and you get close is actually really good in this case too. So that's the thing to kind of always remember when you're thinking about these things. Employers are searching for individuals that possess better soft skills. So we just had a career fair yesterday. Sorry with that. Hang on. We just had a career fair yesterday. I got to talk to probably 20 or 30 employers that I know really well. We also had an employer panel last Thursday. They're all saying the same thing. Here in Vegas right now, they're looking for people with better soft skills. And it's not so much that people that are applying for jobs don't have any soft skills. They're looking for people that can manage 6 to 8 or 8 to 10 people, looking for people that can manage their schedules, people that have a little HR knowledge that know, hey, if they're going to request a day off, they need a 30-day notice for a vacation day. If they're sick, they have certain policies. So they're having a struggle right now in Las Vegas finding managers that take care of just these skills. But those are the skills that they need right now with all the amount of business and the amount of things that are going on in this city. So understated versus appropriate emphasis. So this is the thing that we'll mention again here. When you're going over your resume and you're trying to show your skills, when you're using bullet points and you're using information to show what you did at a job, you're trying to show the information or show what you did to that employer so that employer really has an understanding of what you did. So on the left, recorded daily sales and documents. What does that really tell me? If I'm a potential hiring manager and I look at that, what have you just told me? You basically have told me nothing. You told me you recorded daily sales and documents. On the right side, if you tell me you recorded $1,000 in daily sales through constant engagement with customers and relationship building, you've told me a lot. You've given me a bunch of information, and now I know you from what you've done way better than I did from that one line. Line number 2 is one of my favorite, answering phones. So what is answering phones? Utilizing effective communication and organizational skills to manage incoming call volume with 25 clients. That gives more information. It does use another quantitative number in there, but it just gives better information too. And then wipe tables, adhere to state public policies, sanitizing tables, creating a better public image for a restaurant, and 5% increase in customer satisfaction. I've had a few meetings this week where I've talked to people about like what they've done. They've done different jobs like tutoring, they've done different jobs and like assisting a front desk job. So when you can use things like that, like increases, let people know what the increase is, let them know what the result is, as I mentioned earlier. So it's actions and skills, projects and problems, and then the results are where the big fun comes in to get that on there. So resumes, another part that we've been doing a lot with students is classes and projects. So some of this information can be really, really beneficial on a resume. I end up working with a lot of engineering students, a lot of STEM students in general. They have a lot of class projects that they do. Some of them have projects outside of it. If you've never noticed in the engineering building, there's a concrete canoe in there. That's an amazing thing that they do. So when they talk about these types of things, these can have a huge impact on the resume, not just outlining the classes, the technical information and the research-based information and what they've done in there. So classes and projects are a great addition to a resume because they're really adding a lot of information to the resume that can definitely be helpful. Projects can emphasize skills using 2 to 3 bullet points. So you don't want to put a project on there and have the project covering like a third of the resume or something like that, but put the information there that's really relevant. Skills and technology section, this is what we normally include on the bottom of the resume. I always tell people, make sure you take your time. When you're having a meeting with a career professional specialist, don't worry about like thinking of everything here. I've had students that have sent me back resumes a couple days later and they're like, oh my gosh, I forgot about like these 4 programs that I knew in high school. I forgot about this project I did that I did with my uncle or something like that. So there's a lot of information that can be put on there, including speaking multiple languages, extra certifications. So all this can go in there and still get your resume to fit one page if that's the goal. Match this area with the job posting so that these will get recognized by the applicant tracking system to help your chances for an interview. So all part of the fun with the resumes. I got the chat open. I don't see any questions yet, so we'll go on. So when you talk about skills, so that's what this presentation is about today. It's skills for employability. And so there's a whole bunch listed here, and then I have a great connection to this coming up for you all here in a second. But things like management, communication, problem solving, planning and organizing, critical thinking, leadership, reliable self-discipline, time management. By just reading that list, what I always tell people is this is a list of what you want for what. You want this for a manager of any case, but in some cases, this fits for a lot of company CEOs. So when you're looking at an institution like UNLV and the many things that we do here and the many things that we ask individuals to do, when you look over that same list, a lot of that stuff fits the same. The other side of it, financial planning, project management, flexibility, willingness to learn, strong work ethic, collaboration, reliable, motivation, thinking skills. So I got a few little soft skills that are plugged in there too, but these are what employers are really looking for, especially right now, as I mentioned earlier. There's a lot that can go into this too. So when people think about financial planning, I can go back to my fast food idea. When they start a day at a fast food place, whoever has that cash register starts with so much money in it at the beginning of the day. At the end of the day, they have to balance that drawer. They have to go through all the receipts. They have to match the amount of money in their drawer, and they have to check all the credit card transactions. It's got to balance. In some cases, it may be off by 1 or 2 pennies. That could be 1 or 2 pennies handed to somebody really fast, and they didn't count the money perfectly. But in most cases, they do balance. They have to balance out every day. And in some locations, this can be several thousands of dollars. That is a huge part of financial planning. You're taking credit cards, you're getting the right information. A lot of places still ask for an ID with a credit card, which is really important. So that all fixes to financial planning. Flexibility is a big one. In my time in business and my time here at UNLV, flexibility has been a big one. I've been asked to do a lot of different things, which I've been happy to do. But it's the ability to be flexible and say, I have this one thing I need to do, but I can go help this other person for an hour and then get back to what I need to do. In business, this happens constantly. Willingness to learn, part of that is part of a new job too. Anytime you go to a new job, yeah, you're happy to be there. You want to learn everything that you can. You want to take on any new challenges. So that's where that one fits in a lot too. Collaboration is a great one. Collaboration is one that in a university, it's kind of easy to put collaboration on your resume. And I always tell people this is like an easy one because if you're involved in a student organization, you're involved in this program with a graduate college, you're involved in whatever, there's a ton of collaboration that goes on between students, student organizations, staff, and faculty here at the university. So that's one that really everybody that leaves this university, I know for sure they have that one on the resume. Reliable comes with everything. It's not just work, but it's life, being able to rely on your friends, your family, whatever you need. And then motivation, you want to keep your motivation on there too. And that will usually come out in the interview too on why are you motivated to work for this company or what do you want to do? And then thinking skills, which comes out a lot too. So look at this fun thing. So this just came out, I don't know how many days ago. And so we'll spend a few seconds looking through this. So this is a job posting by our friends at the city of Las Vegas. So the job posting is for an electronic records specialist. So we just went through a bunch of skills, right? So I just went over a bunch of skills with you and a bunch of things that you can put on the resume. So this job posting lists it out. It's in bold, knowledge, skills, and abilities. So knowledge of, and it lists here, I think there's 12 or 14 things here. So policies and procedures used in establishing, maintaining, controlling an enterprise records management system. So it's electronic records. So you can think from the title and you can kind of have a good idea of what they're doing. The next one, microfilming practices and procedures. I haven't seen microfilm since the library many years ago, so that's kind of cool that that's on there. Advanced records management, principles and practices, taxonomy. So these are very specific to the job as you go through there. Records retention and guidelines for related electronic records, lifestyle management principles. That's a good one that they have on there too. So that's like 5 down. Every company is required to maintain records electronically or in print for so long. So that one fits with a lot of different companies, and a lot of people probably have that skill. Advanced capabilities of imaging equipment, software, proper business English, including sentence structure, punctuation, spelling, and grammar. So they're asking to make sure that you have proper use of English and they have it in their knowledge of pertinent federal, state, and local law codes and regulations, standard office practices, procedures, methods in teaching to lead supervision and training, and then disaster recovery techniques specific to record management. So if there's record management and there's a problem, they're asking if you have disaster techniques, which is kind of specific. So any questions on this yet? Because there's a lot more to come here. Okay, so this is part one, and this is all on the same page and it's stuck together on this job posting. So look at this one. How great is this title? Skills in. So this is where when we're working with students and alumni, we're asking you to really try to manage your resume and match your resume to the words that are on there. So when you see skills in, this is pretty simple, managing multiple assignments. This can easily be a bullet point on a resume. It could go with a class actually. So manage multiple projects covering X, Y, and Z. There's different ways to do that. The second one, meeting strict deadlines. Anybody in college ever meet a strict deadline? So everybody. So that's an easy one, right? Maintaining complex filing systems, both alphabetic, numeric, and chronological. Pretty much everybody can do this, especially in a university when they get to this point of their life. They are probably managing a filing system of personal information. They probably know the alphabet. They probably know numeric and chronological. So those should be good ones that can be pretty well put on there. Accurately sorting materials, alphabetic, numerical, chronological order. Coping with changing priorities, that's an easy one, right? So coping with changing priorities, that's probably happening every day going to a university. Exercising sound judgment, initiative within established guidelines, yes. Solving complex problems, yes. Working without constant supervision. So here's where you get to some more specifics as you get down here on skills. So working without constant supervision, if I saw that on this job posting, when I would be making my resume, I would modify some of my prior jobs to talk about how I worked independently, because that's going to match it to it. So those are things to think about. Setting priorities for own work and for others. This goes back to management, but this goes also back to time management for yourself personally, but also managing any other people. Interpreting, applying, and explaining established procedures, guidelines, precedents, and work practices. So one great thing that happens in both, so in work and education, you guys get a lot of information in your programs. When you get to a corporation or you get to a company, or even if you're working here at UNLV, UNLV has a company handbook of all the policies and all the procedures. And so I always ask my employees when I hired them in business, I was like, hey, did anybody read the company handbook? And I would always like quiz them like 3 months into their employment and 6 months into their employment. If they do it after 6 months, I just basically sat them down and said, you got to read the company handbook. You have to know what's going on. But it's amazing what you learn about an organization reading their company handbook. You learn about the policies and procedures, but there's different things that people find out about companies. It's from reading that handbook. I think UNLV's, I don't want to misspeak, but I think it's 460 pages of our handbook. So it'll take a little bit of time, but it's worth reading. It's actually very interesting. But those are some things to think about too, because when you talk about guidelines, if you're ever going to manage people and you talk about priorities and the way the company outlines different information, a lot of that comes from the handbook and some of it can come from just some brief training with human resources. So keep that in mind. So composing logical detailed procedures for training manuals and non-technical users. So I've developed training manuals before. They're kind of fun to make. To me, it's fun to manage employees when you get that opportunity. Sometimes we have people that are really creative that we don't use their skills enough on being creative for doing things like that, on creating technical guidelines and creating training. So that's one thing we try to pay attention to. And then establish effective working relationships with those contacted in the course of work. we all work and we all go to a very diverse university. So I think relationships and contacting with others is something that we're all excellent at. So that's a thing to keep in mind too. And then communicating clearly and concisely, both orally and in writing too. There's lots of training too that you guys can jump into if you want to. LinkedIn Learning's got a bunch. Google has some about professional emails, professional etiquette. I will say from my time at UNLV now, over a year and a half here, I've got some great emails back from students, and they have been super professional and they've been actually very impressive. So whoever's teaching that is doing a great job. So any questions yet? All right, we got another piece of this. So this is the end. So I just showed you three in a row. This is exactly how they are on the job posting. And this is the city of Las Vegas, right? So they're a government institution. So the way they list this stuff too, they're probably following a lot of guidelines that they have, not just locally from the city, but probably from the state of Nevada also. So this one lists the competencies. So this was the end of the job posting too. After this was just a little bit of information on benefits, but core work competencies. So when you look at these, anybody got any ideas of what these are? Anybody? Anybody from the crowd? Like I'm trying to get some participation. Give you a hint. Are they soft skills? Perfect. Good job, Kevin. So I figure you guys would get this one pretty fast. So this is interesting that they've added these, and they started adding these a few years ago because when you look at these are all the most basic of soft skills. So these are things that you guys will all learn in your time at UNLV. If you've done any type of part-time jobs, if you've worked as a graduate assistant, anything like that, you're going to learn a lot of these. But this is the funny part of Vegas right now. This is the one area where some of this is lacking. In our employee panel, our employer panel that we had last Thursday, they had mentioned this, that they think some of the soft skills have went away. They don't want to blame the pandemic. The pandemic can't be blamed for everything, but it's soft skills too that are sometimes really, really important depending on what your organization is, how many people you have to manage, and how you communicate. But things like problem solving, so customer focus, effective communication, professionalism, these have all come up several times. So these are really, really important. You don't need to put these on the resume so much to make them stand out in any way, shape, or form. So when you have these competencies on this job posting, when you're putting your resume together, customer focus is an easy one. You can talk about anywhere you worked with other customers. Adaptability, you have that from being at a university and completing a program. Problem solving, have that. So a lot of this stuff will be more or less understood, but some of this could come up in the interview too. So keep that in mind. So that was a lot of fun building that today. So Handshake is the program that UNLV uses for job posting. So it's UNLV's version of LinkedIn. Many of the attributes and information is the same both on Handshake and LinkedIn. And don't worry, I'll get to LinkedIn here in a second too. So the good thing about Handshake that a lot of people don't know is the employers are checked for the system. So if an employer really wants to be on Handshake, when they put their information into Handshake, they have to put their company information, they have to put a description about themselves, where they're at, where their corporate office is, all that information. They got a 2-day window before they can post a job. And the 2-day window is not to be mean to them. Handshake does a reverse check on that company. So they make sure they meet a certain trust score that they have to pass before they're allowed to post jobs. We have had companies that have been on Handshake that have been kicked off Handshake because they've either done something against Handshake's policies or employment policies in general, and we pull them off. So the good thing about Handshake, when we post jobs or we have our employers post jobs on Handshakes, you are getting legit information. It's coming from a legit company that will pay you, which matters a lot. Handshake, another part of it too, it also really learns. So if you're on Handshake and you're thinking, hey, I'm going to move to San Diego, I want to get a job in accounting, and you go on there and you do a couple different searches and your search city San Diego and your job focus is accounting, Handshake's going to learn pretty quick. So if you do a couple of those, Handshake will send you an email as a follow-up for job recommendations. And what is it going to be? It's going to be accounting. It may not be all be in San Diego County. It may be a little bit outside of that, but it's going to be in California. So it learns all that. So it sends you the notifications to help you improve, not by what it said, but it's using the recommendations to match your searching too. So it's doing a lot of things behind the scenes. So the more you use it and the more that you're on it and the more you're job searching on there, especially, the more it's going to help you out on providing you better information to make your job search easier. So normally I'd ask, like, if I'm in a classroom, I'd say a show of hands, does everybody have Handshake? I'm guessing everybody has Handshake in this group. If you don't, you can set up an appointment with me and I'll help you get all this set up. So when you get into Handshake, here's some good features about it too. And the top picture, you get to choose qualities you're looking for an employer. So you're looking for company culture. Is it mission driven? Are they supportive? Do they inspire leadership? Are they flexible work environment? Can you work hybrid? Are they fun? types of employment, startup, high growth, established. So you get to pick from these different things on what you're really looking for, and then company support. So this has been a big one. Handshake's added a lot to this. They try to make this even more inclusive because if you look here, they got almost everything covered. But if you're Black or African American, Native American, Pacific Islander, veterans, military, LGBTQA, everything. So Latino women. So they had a lot that they're adding on there too. So people want to know, hey, I want to work for this company because of what they do. And then you can list on here what skills you bring to your next job. So common skills for students on Handshake. So tax returns, data management, sports marketing, fiction writing, urban economics, medical writing. So you can see there's a lot of information on there too. So if you haven't done it already, take your time on Handshake and go through this information and fill this out with your profile because it'll make your profile stand out, but it'll also help you out a lot in the job search and then when you're looking for different jobs. So then another part of it too, where would you like to work? So cities popular, Salt Lake City, Phoenix, Arizona, London, Dallas, Austin, Fort Worth, all over Texas, California, Abilene, Texas, New York. So you get a pick from cities. And so cities that are popular, and you can pick anywhere on there also. And then industries on your radar too. So depending on where your job search is at, you can kind of focus it down. If you don't want to focus it down so much, you can. So you can pick from these different areas. Healthcare obviously is going to be a humongous one. Investment banking is a big one. Investment portfolio management, those are big ones. Journalism is a big one also that pops up too, because we have a lot more going on in journalism right now. So it's just pick the industry. So pick whatever fits for you and whatever you're looking at. And then Handshake a couple days ago. So full-time, part-time jobs, internships, on-campus jobs are all listed on Handshake. We have a few on-campus jobs that are not listed on Handshake. So we're trying to get some more information on anything on campus. They're trying to make sure all that information is put on Handshake. I know people over the campus. I got a buddy that he runs the rec center. Every semester, he needs like 15 student workers at the start of the semester. So there's an opportunity for a lot of different jobs. The library is always looking for student workers, facilities management. So we have a lot of different areas where students have the ability to get jobs that are on campus. So as of, this is 2 days ago, a couple days ago, 3 days ago, 16,400 jobs and 5,200 internships were listed on Handshake. So it's good. So here's what I tell people about Handshake too. Handshake is a really good start. LinkedIn will be the next couple slides. LinkedIn is a really good start also to look for jobs. But when you think about some of these companies have 500 employees, some of these companies have 2,500 employees. Do they get all those jobs put on Handshake? No. So I'll tell you a quick little story about an internship. So a local TV. So I have a friend here that has a daughter that's on the East Coast going to school. So he's in the military, part of our military group on campus. The daughter wants to come here for the summer. So she spent some time looking on Handshake and looking on LinkedIn. And she's like, I really want to get an internship. I'm in journalism and communication. That's what her degree is. And I was like, the way that we really tell students to look is get on the website for the companies and kind of do, it's basically like kind of a grassroots knocking on doors for internships. So she was struggling, but she was using the right tools, right? Handshake and LinkedIn. So I can't remember if it's channel 5 or channel 8. I don't have cable here, but I looked at one of their websites and it had, I kid you not, 15 internships listed. So these are things where you look at this company, it's a news company. They run a TV channel here in Vegas. We're pretty busy in Vegas. They have all these postings. Do they have time to put the 15 internships on Handshake? They don't. They have other jobs that are posted on Handshake. So I use this example to tell people Handshake and LinkedIn are always a great start, but if you know where you want to work and you have a really good idea, hey, I want to go work for XYZ company, go to their website. So you never know what might be missed or if there's a job posted that may not get posted for another week or two before it gets to Handshake. So always keep that in mind. Any questions with that? We're using skills to get jobs. That's what we're doing. So LinkedIn today, over 875 million members in over 200 countries and regions worldwide. I think they've expanded LinkedIn now to offering even more languages. I know it's over 20 different languages that it comes in. So LinkedIn is one of the best ways to grow your network with professionals. It's access to people, jobs, organizations, news, updates, and insights. We did a lot of helping students last week with LinkedIn profiles, a part of our resume day that we did last Wednesday. One of the reasons is, and I don't know if it's in a slide coming up, but in our employer panel that we had both this spring and last fall, we have comments from a lot of our employers that were there that they use LinkedIn. Because the resume is great. The resume is a one-page summary, but LinkedIn gives so much more information And it's also connecting you to communities and connecting you to other things that are going on around you. So the resume is a summary. So LinkedIn can be a great deal of information about yourself, mostly your specific set of skills. So one of the things I see a lot with LinkedIn profiles from students is they'll have about 15 to 25 skills, which isn't bad. But if you really think about all the skills that aren't just posted on LinkedIn, you can type in your own. You really should have a skill set around 40. If you look back at those other skills that are on the other slides and you think about everything that's on there, the hard skills and the soft skills, when you start adding those, because you have those from your experience at a university, you can add that and really build upon that and build upon it like crazy. So that can be enhanced a great deal. You have information on LinkedIn where you can add volunteer information. So if you've done any volunteer time, you can add certifications. UNLV runs a site called Career Launch. Through Career Launch, we have 6 different badges that can be attained through completing the courses that we have that go through LinkedIn. When you complete those badges go to LinkedIn profiles also. So that's where certifications and things can really add to your LinkedIn profile and add a lot. And then it's your really best way to sell yourself. LinkedIn gives you an area on the top where you can write a paragraph about yourself, or you can write 5 pages about yourself. You can put as much information as you want. So employers, as I mentioned, they're using it as a backup and a way to get more information. So looking at a one-page resume, it's great, but like I said, LinkedIn, you can scan through those profiles of potential candidates and you can gain extra insight about their background. So it's been a big thing that we've been using with LinkedIn, a big thing that we've been pushing. There's so many other little parts and pieces. I've had students that I've had meetings with that the students are looking at transferring out of Vegas and going to a different part of the country. And I'm like, hey, where are you thinking about going? And they're like, I'm thinking about going here. I'm going to go to Oregon. And so, have you done LinkedIn in Oregon? And they're like, no, how do you do it? And so, there's things that they can connect to ahead of time because they know they're going to go out there. They can connect to that city. They can connect to any schools up there. They can connect to the universities, any areas where they have like shows, concerts, things like that, or any community functions too. So there's a lot of different ways to use LinkedIn to make connections to ahead of time if you are thinking about leaving and going somewhere else in the future. So don't forget about that. So how do you put all this together? You guys are trying to sell yourself. That's what this is. It's employability. It's trying to showcase your skills. So it's a growth mindset. So myself, my knowledge, and my experience, everything that you already have is very valuable. So you want to view the skills through a different lens. You want to share that lens with others. So reach out to any other peers, reach out to any of your friends. When you're putting together resumes, come see us at Career Services. So we'll help you with that. So you identify your unique skills. You want to think about ways to applying them in creative or non-traditional ways too. So that's where you can really get creative with some of the ways you do bullet points on resumes, how you put your technology and skills part together. But that's where you really are working to sell yourself, is when you're using that, you're showing that value. You demonstrate. So never be less than anything 100% of who you are. So include your unique identity, strengths, and all they bring to everything you do. The learning, apply personal connections, previous knowledge, and understand new content. So the demonstrate part of it, this is where you really want to talk about results. So this is where, like I said earlier, when we look at a resume, if you tell me about the project you did, great. If you don't tell me about the results, why not? What's going on there? You're leaving out something. You're not demonstrating to me what you've shown and what you talked about, but you didn't tell me what the results were, what you did to improve or to fix or to help somebody. So that's an important thing to keep in mind. And then success. So the fixed mindset, the status quo, you want to find success with this. So if it's not found, create it. So embrace your experiences, embrace your skills. So we want everybody to thrive. So create and build an environment where differences are valued, showcasing your skills, highlighting your abilities. Any questions so far? It's a lot of information.
Actually, I have one from a student. They said, do you have any experience working with companies that sponsor work visas for foreign employees?
So that has been coming up a lot. So I've had a lot of international students that I know because we're here at the grad college. Um, you can look for those. There is a way to search for those. I don't know the most specific and best way to search for those, but that has come up a lot. I've had several students that I've met with. What I typically will tell them too is that we're not experts here on international students at Career Services. So I always refer them back to my partners and my friends over at OISS. So Office of International Students and Scholars. Start with Leslie and Michael in over there in that office too, and they're going to give a little bit more insight on that. We can help with the employers and possible employers for that, but they're going to help with better knowledge on doing that. I just don't know Vegas well enough on that international side, but I know those visas are very important. Anything else? We got time. I got more. I got more fun stuff. So this is where I was trying to do a group activity. So because I've given you guys a lot, and we can do this in the chat or however we want to do this. So of all the skills and discussed, identify skills you possess, skills that are not listed. One time you demonstrated a skill, how could you apply this skill in a career workplace? Verbiage to translate the skills to a resume. So we can wait a few minutes if you guys want to share anything, because I mentioned a lot, but I didn't cover them all for sure. So if somebody wants to share any skills and anytime that they demonstrated them, we can give a couple minutes or 2 or 3 minutes for this if they want to participate. On. So, career services. So, we moved last September. We are in the Gateway building. We're regular hours Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. We do have open hours. So, Tuesday and Wednesday from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Myself or a graduate assistant will be here for open hours. And then through Handshake, too, the great thing that we've had this semester, I have a employee that works on Saturday. So 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock on Saturday, they take an hour break for lunch, but they're available for virtual appointments all day on Saturday, which has been a huge thing this year. I cannot believe how well that's worked out. So we put that together this year, which has been really great. And so that is it. So this one's a little shorter than my last couple. So I'm complete with this.
Are there any final questions? Feel free to chime in, unmute the mic if you need to. And you can just see it in the chat. It looks like Kevin says, are there any specific section headers you would recommend for our resumes, such as technical skills, certifications, competencies, academic affiliations, etc.?
Yeah, Kevin, for the resume, we try to keep them a little bit formatted. So the first one in section is usually always education. And so after education, though, if you want to include like relevant coursework or any projects related to back to your school, then you kind of include them there in one section. Next is usually work experience. And then after those two, there's a little bit of flexibility. So I've had some students that use like a volunteer section if they've had a lot of volunteer. They can use leadership if they're like part of a student organization or doing something outside where they want to include leadership. Technical skills as one of the things I usually put at the bottom. And then Kevin, if you want, check it. I'll put my email address in here. What we did is I made a generic resume, a generic cover letter, and a generic curriculum vitae. You guys are busy enough as students. You don't need to reinvent the wheel when you guys do this. So I'll put my email address in there. If you want all those, or if you want one of those, you can just email me and I'll shoot them back to you. They're all formatted. They're in Microsoft Word. They're not perfect. With resumes, you can be creative too. However you want to do headings is kind of up to you. And we always tell people to use a little bit of flexibility with it, but also use some creativity with it too on how you want to put them together. But you're looking for like a logical sequence. Yesterday was a great example. We had 1,000 students and we had 200 employers at our career fair, which is awesome. So you would see the recruiters and they're getting resumes from students and they're looking at them, and a lot of them we helped them with, thank goodness, and they're formatted, and it's easier for them to pick out everything that they needed and see the information and ask good questions. But you can add a little bit of creativity with them too on how you want to do it. So academic affiliations is a good one. I don't see that as much on resumes lately, but that could be something that could be added into the school section for sure. So great question. And then if you guys don't have this, free documents. Yeah, I was just looking for a little creativity with the activity. I tried the activity. I've had some people like has told me some really dynamic things that they have done. I'm like, what the heck activity is that or whatever. So we've heard some fun stuff from other people like trying to share their skills. So that was the only effort with that.
What are some of those fun things that you've experienced?
Oh my gosh, I had people like put like not just the word like multitasking, but they would use the word multi, and I can't remember, it was like multi-cohesive creation or something. And it was like, amazing, like, what are you even talking about there? And he's like, well, I was doing this, but I was combining like 6 different things into this one that became like a training thing. And I'm like, who's going to know what that, but it's just like using some creative terms on it too, because like I said, there's so many skills and there's so many like hard skills and soft skills or whatever. And you want to use whatever you can, but if you come up with your own, a little creativity is not a bad thing too.
Mhm.
But also
So
we looked at
how,
the job listing too was data. And so that job listing that we looked through in that PowerPoint, that listed some really specific things that related back to that job.
so how far away do you think from kind of that just standard blueprint do you think could become just a little bit off-putting to an employer, kind of coming up with your own soft skills, hard skills to list where it's like, oh, now I'm gonna have to Google this. So how
Yeah,
far away do you think?
don't go too far, but like I said, if you can come up with different creative terms, absolutely do that too. Because we have students too, like in different programs, like in fine arts, they get involved in all sorts of different projects. There's different terminology, lighting, theater, things like that. Engineering, that's its own group of information, not just programs, but the projects that they do in engineering. Don't forget our guys in architecture. They're using very specific programs. They don't design buildings anymore like they used to. They're designed three-dimensionally. So that's where you get into some other skill sets, some other things that are more specific to certain areas, but also, man, hospitality too. It's like when you get into hospitality and like when you think about like a restaurant, what type of equipment, refrigeration, all that stuff, I don't know any of that stuff. So there's some terminology that can be used in different areas like that too.
So thank you. All right, well, if there are no further questions, that is the end of today's session. Thank you so much, Dr. Vetter. But before we end today's session, we would like to thank our presenters for sharing their time and expertise with us today, and to thank our participants for joining us today. But before y'all log off, please take a few minutes to fill out this workshop feedback survey that I am dropping in the chat right now. And of course, if y'all have any further follow-up questions for Dr. Vetter, he also sent his email into the chat, darren.vetter@unlv.edu. So thank y'all so much again.
See you guys. It was fun. Thanks.